South China Morning Post, 21st of February 2023. However, analysts warn against ruling out third parties and proxies because China won't arm Russia in the Ukraine conflict. North Korea, Mongolia, and the Central Asian states are excellent conduits for sending weapons to Russia, and China will use proxies to send supplies to that countries. Chinese analysts believe that while China is extremely unlikely to send lethal weapons to support Russia in its conflict in Ukraine, it will not be able to sever ties with Moscow or halt supplies obtained through intermediaries. The assessment came after U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken issued a warning, which Beijing immediately denied, that China was contemplating providing lethal assistance, including weapons and ammunition, to help Russia in its conflict with Ukraine. According to Zhou Chunming, a researcher at the Yuan Wang Military Science and Technology Think Center in Beijing, it would be extremely unlikely for China to provide weapons to Russia. Beijing is committed to maintaining its strong commercial ties with the West. According to Zhou, the US and the EU, two of its major business partners in the West, won't be offended. He claimed that Blinken's caution could be viewed as a tactical deterrent to prevent the supply of weapons. Blinken warned that providing weapons would have serious repercussions during discussions with top Chinese diplomat Wang Yi on Saturday's sidelines of the Munich Security Conference. Josep Borrell, the foreign policy chief for the European Union, said he constantly reminded Wang that providing weapons to Russia would be crossing a red line in the relationship between Beijing and Brussels. That sentiment was echoed on Monday. "I didn't say China is providing weapons, you say. When I expressed our worry about this possibility to State Councillor Wang Yi, he responded to me very directly by stating, 'We are not doing it, and we have no intention of doing it,' he said." She continued, "Which is not to say that we shouldn't be watchful or keep a close eye on what is occurring." One of the Chinese delegates to the security conference, Zhou Bo, a former senior colonel in the People's Liberation Army, claimed that although unfounded, the US and EU concerns showed that the West was concerned that China would officially support Russia. Zhou Bo, a senior fellow at the Center for International Security and Strategy at Tsinghua University, stated that the West just worries about China might supply Russia with weapons, even though there is no evidence to suggest it. He declared that China and Russia would continue to have positive and fruitful relations that shouldn't be tried and judged by a third party. The former PLA officer also voiced worry that the West's staunch backing of Ukraine would prolong the conflict and force Russian President Vladimir Putin into a tight spot. "Russia is invulnerable. Even though Russia still has the most significant nuclear arsenal and is a sizable nation, people frequently talk about defeating it. I see a deadlock with Russia. What will happen then, since he cannot lose the war? It's a terrible predicament. Putin may or may not use nuclear weaponry, but I am concerned." According to Zhu Feng, a professor of international relations at Nanjing University, as more Western weaponry enter Ukraine, Moscow is under more pressure to request assistance from Beijing. According to Zhu, the possibility of China providing Russia with arms was extremely remote, but the two nations' strategic partnership might be elevated. He added that Beijing could not stop Moscow from purchasing Chinese weaponry and equipment from third parties acting as China's proxies. According to reports, Russian and Ukrainian forces use DJI Mavic drones, commonly used by Chinese civilian UAVs, for military surveillance and strikes. DJI Technology, headquartered in Shenzhen, stated in April last year that neither drone it sold was intended for military use. Neither Beijing nor DJI could completely rule out the prospect of acquisition by third parties. According to Zhu, Beijing and the company should state their positions clearly after any cases arise and assist with further investigations to avoid the recurrence of similar circumstances.